Hello. I haven't done a long form in a second. So this video is basically going to be some helpful tips on how to categorize your priorities. I keep saying prioritizing your categories and it doesn't make sense. Anyways, so you want to categorize your priorities, and what I mean by this is your life priorities. Some people always complain about like they're disorganized, like they don't know how to keep up and things like that, or like I've had people look at me and they're like, how are you doing all this and that without like losing track of things? And I'm like, I have my categories. I have my categories on purpose because I know myself. I mean, I have ADHD, so like it's kind of a no-brainer for me to have to like do the little extra mile to organize. But I would want to say like it's not just for people with ADHD. You should probably just categorize your priorities anyway. I feel like you'd be doing yourself and everyone else a favor. So basically what I mean by that is like you have things not just in your head. I am one who has learned the hard way. Having thoughts in your head and then leaving them there, just don't do that. You know, I would just say don't do that, whether you have ADHD or not, because it's a process, and then you have to backtrack your literal brain wavelength like you didn't go through a whole day. You want things in writing, right? So like whether it's in lists, whether it's in charts, like if you, like I said, you're gonna do what you want to do, but what I'm saying is you need to have a visual of everything that you need done. For example, like I'm gonna screenshot my list because like right now I have a screenshot, I have a list of what I want to talk about in this video, so I'm categorizing as I go, right? So I'm gonna show you what I do for my reception. I'll show you an example of like my personal tasks and lists and things like that. You gotta have your categories, you have to have your calendars. When it comes to categorizing your priorities, what you need to do is sit back and look at the entirety of your life. And I kind of said this in one of my shorts, like what is it that you have to get done? You want to focus on that, focus on the fact that like you have to get these things done, but you need them written down somewhere, and then you need to know where that somewhere is. That part I can't help you with. You just need to keep track of where you put it. I keep things on my phones on purpose because I always have them on me and I'm always on them. And mind you, this kind of goes back to you have to sit back and evaluate your own self. How does your brain work? Like mine works where like for some reason I'm always in my photo gallery, like I said before. And so if I take a screenshot, I will see it in my gallery and be like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, that's right. Not only that, but I do have my reminders list and I have my little task list going on as well. I currently don't have a full-time job, but before then, like at my full-time job, I had a list of things and a task list at that job, right? So every single Friday, I would map out the following week, and like I know where like my weekly meetings were. I just logged those in there, and then as I was given tasks throughout the week, I added them in as reminders or just as to put on my list as something that I needed to cross off for that day. Things like that. I also had like a task board that I would refer to, because like that's where I would get my assignments from, and then I would build my task list for that day off of that task board. Does that make sense? So whether you're at your job, you want to try and do that. Try to have your list there. Don't bring it home unless like you have to. I'm hoping you're getting paid for that. I don't believe in overtime unless you're being paid for it. But yeah, things like that. For me personally now, like I have my personal list. I'll show you, I'll put it here. I have, so it's called personal tasks for me. So like I have things that I need to do weekly. So like laundry would be like a weekly thing that I need to get done on here. And all of them are like really things that I want to do. Like they're either hobbies or like personal development things that I want to do, or just random things that I've wanted to get into. But I write them down so I don't forget, so that when I do have the extra time on my hands, I can go back to it. But because it's a personal task, like if they don't have a set reminder and they're just on the list, they're not immediate. So that's kind of like how you want to split things up. It's like you have your list, you have your category, but then are the tasks immediate? And if you need to split it up differently, where it's like everything in one list but they're all immediate, but they're all in different areas of your life, by all means, like you can organize it however you want. This is just how I do it. So personal tasks, right? I have my laundry, I have a reminder set for that to happen weekly, and I don't forget, but this is just to have a visual for it, right? You have to kind of gauge what you're trying to do to get that going, right? So if I switch to my reception list, let's see, so like make a categorizing priorities long form. Hence that's what I'm doing right now. I was supposed to do this last week and I just didn't get to it. I will show you my calendar. Don't freak out, because it's not just my calendar that you're about to see. It's I'm an assistant to a pastor, and so we'll get into that list in a second. But like, so this is my calendar. it's all over the place. I have to track technically three different calendars, because I'm going off his Google and his Outlook calendar together, and with my Google calendar on top of it. So I color code things. Everything for my church specifically is red on my calendar. Meetings for him are all like blue on his calendar, right? So like sometimes it's easier for me to color code, and like other times it'll be random for me. So it's like, if I look at it now, say like I have a meeting with my client today, and it's yellow because like I run his YouTube and like his Instagram content and all of that, and so his brand colors are like black, white, gray, and yellow. So I made the meeting color yellow. But yeah, so like that's kind of how I mentally categorize. Again, there's obviously no rule of thumb here. Make the color whatever matches your mood at that time, you know, like, or whatever. Like if meetings have to be one color, so you know at least it's a meeting, then you can click into it when you actually need details later, things like that. My assistant list, so it's like I have things on here where like I'll set a reminder as soon as he tells me something. I go and write it down if I don't want to do it right away, or if I can't do it right away. Or like we have weekly meetings, and during those weekly meetings I will be filling in my reminders list or my task list, and then I'll go in and set reminders after the fact. But it's more of like, just write down what you need to get done immediately, and then you can go in and do the little details later, especially like if you're on the go, you know what I mean? Or like I'm also his central admin over like the worship department in our church, and so like I separate those lists because those responsibilities can vary. Sometimes they'll mix, but for the most part I need them separate, because I just my mind just needs to know like what role, who am I being today. You need to know what role you're playing, or what version of yourself that you need to trigger at that time, and then like you can split up the list that way. Like for me, I know for a fact when I do get married and have kids and all of that, I will have a kids list. You will not be on my personal list. You'll be nowhere else. It will be for the kids. So I say I have my 2 kids, right? They will each have their own. Then we'll have a family list. Then each kid will have their own list of what they're doing. This is obviously like when they get older and things like that, like, you know, what they start playing sports or they get into activities, yada yada yada. This is for moms now. Like if you're watching it, like you can split up lists per kid and set up calendars per kid. Each kid can have their own color on the calendar. Yes, you want your list split up by everything that you need to do in life. So like I said, you want to get everything out of your head, and honestly, either you write it down roughly in a list if that's what works for you. If you want to go even a step further, you can, right? So just have some way where you can visualize it and you're looking at the actual things that you have to do versus just being like this and thinking about it, because I'll do that sometimes. But I've noticed, like, as I'm like, mind you, of course think about it, like otherwise it wouldn't happen in the first place, but like, you know, you sit and think about it, but as like the thought gets more concrete, then you write it down somewhere, anywhere that you're going to remember and you can go back to and develop that idea. So like examples, you can make a list, you can draw it out, you can make a Canva graphic. You know your girl likes Canva. So ask yourself, what are your categories in life? And then you can start broad, and then you can narrow it down per category. So like at home, right? At home life. Write out dinners. If you have dinner ideas, put them in a list. And then as you're narrowing down your week, decide, hey, I want to make this meal on this day, or I want to make this meal specifically for this holiday, or like, hey, there's an event coming up, let me think about you know what I mean? You can literally map it out per week, per month, per every 3 months, depending on how big the event is. Like, so for me personally, I have all of my weeklies on my calendar, because if they're repetitive, I just need them there. I need the slots already taken, so it's not like say like someone's like, oh, can you do this day, and you say yes, and it's like, nah bro, you had this booked for the past 5 months, why would you fill the slot? You know what I mean? Like for me, like I have a church class every Tuesday up until the beginning of December, because it's in like 3-month semesters. As soon as I get the start date and the end date, I log that completely on my calendar. So it's every Tuesday, and I just write from 6 to 9:30 and call it a day. So it's blocked off. So if it's like a consistent thing, it needs to be on my calendar forever, like to the end of time, until it doesn't need to be there anymore. Payments, you know, you can, like at home life in general. Yeah, I'm paying for this bad boy monthly, but they come out on the 29th of every month, so I have it written on the 29th up until March, a firm payment, just so you can be aware, and then that way you can backtrack and you can look at like your money in your account and just be like, okay, like I've got money for this, or like I need to know not to spend this money for this, things like that. You can split things up for friends, you know, like if you have an idea for a hangout, you can put that in a list. It doesn't have to immediately be scheduled, but like if you're talking with your friends, like you just need to know what days to block off times to block off. Like, for example, people will be like, oh, let's hang on this day, and I'm like, that's great. What time? I'm not spending 12 hours with you. I need to know. And that way I can then categorize my day around that. And also this helps, like, if you need to drive places, like you can allocate, like, okay, here's my drive time block, things like that. Basically, like, you fit in, like, okay, how much time do I actually think I need to do for this, and then add like an extra 15 minutes on there. Just like give yourself leeway time, because you don't want things on your calendar where it's like from 2:30 to 3:30 I'm doing this, and then from 3:30 to so and so, because like again, like you don't know if that thing's gonna take a couple extra minutes, or you know, if something's gonna be shorter. You just want to always give yourself a little bit of leeway time. But again, like I would really say, like, you need to use your calendar in your lists and have something in front of you, so that way like the moving parts are always, it's kind of like the gears, like one's going this way, the other one's going this way, but they're working together to keep you on track. You know what I mean? And mind you, this is just so the notification will pop up. You don't have to do these things at the time that you set them. Like I'll just do random times. It'll be like 2 p.m., 11 a.m. And like I promise you, I literally do not do things most of the time at the time that I get the notification. But because it's on my phone now, and I'm usually on my phone most of the time, I will see that. I will see that I have a notification. It's like, oh, that's right. And I will not swipe it away. Please don't swipe your notifications away, especially if you're doing it to remind yourself. Why would you do that? You need to map out your life down to as much detail as you personally want and need. Like, there's no rule of thumb for this. The only rule of thumb is to take those ideas out of your mind and have them written down somewhere, so that you can be held accountable. The whole point about this is accountability, which I love. I love a spirit of excellence where like you hit the ground running, but you're also strategic about it. There always needs to be a thinking process during any of this. And again, like it sounds complicated, but it's not. It's more of like you're just taking the time to be on top of your life, be on top of yourself. This goes as simple as like your goals are your priorities, right? Like short term, long term, put those in a list, put them on a chart. And then, you know, if you have free time or free days or whatever, then I would honestly say, right, versus like waking up, like say your free day is a Saturday, right? Instead of like waking up and just being like, oh wow, a free Saturday, and like figuring it out along the way of what you want to do, pre-map that out. Again, it doesn't have to be down to hour, but like you can allot a section of your day. When you don't have like a kind of a written out plan to follow, you again just kind of go willy-nilly, and then you're like, dang, I didn't do this, or I forgot to do this. Oh man, I really wanted to do that, but I didn't get the chance. Give yourself the chance, because half those times it's your own fault that it didn't get done. I'm speaking from experience, but I'm also coming for next. If you want it to happen, put it on your schedule, put it on your list, whatever. Little things, it's more of like, okay, these are what you want to do, so kind of just have them written out on there, and then you can rearrange it how you want to rearrange it. But make sure you're editing as you rearrange, by the way. Because like, what's the point of having this written out then? I'm just saying, because you're going back to that mental energy, and you don't want that. So as soon as someone asks me something, I just have to write it down, because I'm like, I'm not gonna remember this later, and then we're all gonna be unhappy and in trouble. I don't like that personally. I don't know if that's the life that you want to live. By all means, you do that. I will not be joining in that. My energy will not be participating in that activity. It's down to your personal life. It's down to like the need to do's. It's down to the want to do's. Split those up, please. Split up those lists. Need to do, want to do, two different things. Two different things. Do not get it twisted. There's a hangout being planned, and like what time and day now. Don't stretch this out over 3 days. I need to know it like within the next couple of hours, by the end of the day, by midnight, not even then, by 10 p.m. And so I can have it on my calendar. Otherwise, I'm like, and I tell my friends this, I'm like, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. I will not be there. Plan. It's okay to plan, because you'd rather be prepared for life than having to react to what's going on, as my pastor Devin says. Like, why would you want to react to chaos that you created in the first place when you could have avoided it and had a little bit more peace along the way? That's my thing. So again, like, what is it that you need and want to do? How drastic are they? You can even create categories within your categories, like intense, it's in red. It needs to get done, but not right away, yellow. It can happen whenever, green. You know, do things to help yourself so that you can also help the others around you, and then vice versa. They can help you as well. You need to have a visual. You need to know what you're doing, know what you want to do, know your goal, and then you need to know how you're getting there, because if you want good quality things, you probably shouldn't be skipping things that you're supposed to be doing. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so just plan your life, not down to the full-on detail, and like not down like a crazy person, because you'll lose your mind. You will. But plan please plan. It's so much better for everyone involved, especially you though, because your life is a priority. It means a lot. It holds value. The things that you're doing in your life hold value, and you deserve to not have to be freaking out about it 24/7, because it's literally your life. It's your livelihood. It's your well-being. So yeah, just categorize your priorities, know what's important specifically for you, for your family, for those around you, and then act accordingly. That's it. That's all.